Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbare in Abuja. There's been some very intriguing past few hours in the country. Some online posts that have surfaced reveal a leaked memo over 103 bodies to be buried linked to the NSAS unrest in Lagos in October 2020. That leaked memo addressed to the Lagos State Ministry of Health indicating that the state government had approved 61 million naira for the mass burial of 103 persons identified as 2020 NSAS victims has gone viral on social media, sparking outrage. The memo, dated July 19, 2023, captured steps for the processing of funds after approval by the governor. The Lagos State government, in a statement, is now dispelling the issues that have been raised and the outrage, and the fact that the bodies are being linked to the scene of the sparked outrage, which is the Lekki Toll Gate. In a statement released today and signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the governor, the government says, quote, "It is public knowledge that the year 2020 NSAS crisis that snowballed into violence in many parts of Lagos recorded casualties in different areas of the state and not from the Lekki Toll Gate as being inferred in the mischievous publications. And for the record, the Lagos State Environmental Health Unit picked up bodies in the aftermath of NSAS violence and community clashes at Fagba, Ketu, Ikorodu, Orile, Ajegunle, Abule Egba, Ikeja, Ojota, Ekoro, Ogba, Isolo, and Aja areas of Lagos State, and there was also a jailbreak at Ikoyi prison. The 103 casualties mentioned in the document were from these incidents and not from the Lekki Toll Gate, as being alleged. For the avoidance of doubt, no body was retrieved from the Lekki Toll Gate incident." End of quote. There might be some more explanations from the Lagos State government in this respect to allay the fears and also give some explanations as to the identities of some of these persons. 103 bodies, that seems to be a lot. It's been 56 days since President Bola Tinubu assumed office, with some major events leading to drastic changes in the state of the economy and the well-being of the average citizen. Tonight, we shall be having an engagement with one of our top government officials who has insight into the past, the present, and perhaps the agenda of government on what is next. The National Economic Council rolled out some plans. We'll be showing you some of these plans, which will form part of our conversation tonight, part of which include the rolling out of some palliative measures to be given out to citizens and households poor, and also plans on transportation and several other issues. Let me remind you of what was said after the NEC meeting earlier in the week.
Have a state that has been owing, where salary arrears workers have been owed for 3 years or owed for 4 years. And the priority now is to even start paying down some of the salary arrears, or where pensioners have been owed their pension and gratuity for 7 years, for example. The priority now might be to use part of the surplus to pay that. But there are also states that are with bumper harvest, and they could say, you know what? I want to deploy a chunk of this to implementing cash transfer and several of the other immediate programs. And that's why we couch this point that this is ultimately still a federation, and the various states and local governments and federal government are at different levels in terms of their fiscal space and fiscal capacity. So, states, local government, federal government, depending on their resource, if the federal government decides to do the same cash transfer, for example, we're recommending that they should do so using the framework of the states and local government.
That's the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Soludo, who was one of the governors at the NEC meeting. Well, part of the resolutions that they agreed upon, and were from part of our conversation with Governor Abdullahi Sule on Friday, let me show you and remind you of what they agreed on, and perhaps they say in the next few days and almost immediately, some of these measures are supposed to be in place and being rolled out almost immediately. So they resolved that there will be an integrity test on the state social registers, and there will be cash transfers that will be done via state social registers subject to state peculiarities, and also the reduction in the cost of governance at different levels of government. There are other plans which might involve transportation and also initiative on a 6-month cash award policy for public servants, food items such as grains and fertilizers to be distributed by state governments at the state at the rate acquired from the National Emergency Management Agency to regulate the fluctuation in the prices of some of these items. And also double down for the state to double down on energy transition plans in the transport sector, which is one of the most impacted sectors since the removal of subsidy on petrol. All of these have gained a lot of reactions from Nigerians. The NNPCL had said, look, this is out of our hands. We do not now determine what the price of the product that is petrol. And since we got to know early in the week that the price of petrol had moved from over 500 naira to 617, well, the GMD of the NNPCL, which of course now partly owned by the government and now a public company, listed company, had come out to say, this is as far as I know, and this is as far as the NNPCL is involved in the pricing of petrol. Let me allow you to listen to Mr. Mele Kiari, the GMD of NNPCL.
I don't have the details at this moment. You know, we have marketing wing of our company. They adjust prices depending on the market realities, and this is really what it's about. This is the meaning of making sure that the market regulates itself, so that prices will go up, and sometimes they will come down also. And this is really what we are seeing. In reality, this is how the market works. There's no supply issue completely. It is not a supply. When you go to the market, you buy the product, you come to the market and sell it at its ongoing. It's prevailing market price. Nothing to do with supply. We don't have supply issues. There are a robust supply. We have over 32 days of supply in country. That's not a problem. What I know is that the market forces will regulate the market. Prices will go down sometimes. Sometimes it will go up. But there will be stability of supply. And I'm also assuring Nigerians that this is the best way to go forward, so that we can adjust prices when market goes. I don't have the details this moment, but I know that our marketing wing acts just like every other company in this business. I know that a number of companies have imported petroleum products today, PMS. So many of them are online. I'm sure my colleague will confirm this. So market forces have started to play. People have started having confidence in the market, and the private sector people are now importing products. But there's no way they can recover their costs if they cannot take market reflective costs.
Well, we've been hearing also some reactions on these from the members of the National Assembly. In fact, governors of the APC are making some promises about what will make a cushioning effect on in the aftermath of the removal of subsidy, because the pockets of the average citizen have been impacted. Well, some of the lawmakers are already talking about this on the floor. Let me allow you to listen to what is said. All right, I'll feed in on when we have those sound bites from some of these lawmakers. But one thing that is very fundamental in all of this is the sustenance, or how the economy can be maintained in such a way that the average citizen is not suffering too much. In fact, there is immediate impact pains and groaning. You see what is happening in town. The price of commodity had gone up since the 159% increase on the price of petrol, and now it's moved from over 500 naira to 617 naira, which is also another impact that will have a dovetailing or ripple effect on almost everything in the country. How would the Tinubu government handle this? So my guest will be talking about this, plus the expectations of Nigerians on the Tinubu government, the renewed agenda plans that they have. It's about 56 days since President Tinubu got into office. Where will these cabinet members, when will they be submitted? The names of the nominations for the ministers, when will it be submitted to the National Assembly? The amended version of the Constitution stipulates that the president or the governor shall transmit to the National Assembly, or the State Assembly as the case may be, 60 days and within the time that he has been sworn into office, either as a governor in the state or as the president. Now, the president has just about a few days, and hopefully he might be able to transmit it sometimes during the week. And this will also form part of our conversation. Plus, the situation in the All Progressives Congress. You saw what happened, where the national chairman of the APC, Senator Abdullah Adamu, tendered his resignation, as well as the national secretary, Senator Oshiomhole. But they have since now been replaced by those who are acting in that capacity. Senator Abubakar Kyari is now the acting national chairman of the APC. He also has his plans. He has his eyes set on some of the issues. You heard what Mr. Lukman said on the program here during the week about the state of affairs of the party. Where are they headed? Where the party goes, of course, will determine and influence the affairs of governance, because the activities of President Bola Tinubu, politically speaking, will be also influenced by the activities of the ruling party, APC. And these are some of the issues that we shall be discussing tonight on the program. We'll take a break, everyone. But when we come back, my guests will be on set and we'll be discussing some of these issues. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. We've now been joined by a former governor of Edo State and former NLC president, now a sitting member of the National Assembly, Senator Oshiomhole. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, my brother Shiv. Thank you for having me.
Let's begin the conversation around the issue of palliatives.
Yes.
When Nigerians thought that things were, it got bad when it was the price of petrol was over 500 naira. During the week, it now went as far as 617 naira. But up to now, we still do not know in specifics and when the issue of palliatives will be rolled out. With the way and manner things are going with a lot of Nigerians, those who will probably feel very disturbed and pained that they are paying so much now with the monies that is not really available. What do you think is the immediate measure as a sitting lawmaker to alleviate the pains of the Nigerian people?
Well, I'm just going to speak my opinion. You know, first, the issue of implementation of a policy is that of the executive. I think we have approved a palliative package as requested by the executive, and they have a couple of conversations as to, you know, what is the best way to administer it, about 500 billion. I guess the challenge, I use the word guess, I think the challenge the government is facing is the usual stuff of not having a reliable data. Not many Nigerians believe that the data that was used by the previous administration, you know, was reliable. And as much as you want to rush to treat a patient, you don't want to throw the medication at the wrong person. And you want to ensure that there's a measure of accountability and that money paid out can be verified and real human beings can lay claim. Particularly when you take into account the fact that even in the formal sector, you do have challenges year after year of ministers of finance telling us about ghost workers and stuff like that. Like you, I don't think anybody, including the president, I think he's anxious to have this money out. He's not accruing any interest to government, certainly not to the president. I'm sure he will want to get the targeted beneficiaries to begin to collect whatever it is that is due to them. Now, in the formal sector, I think there should be no reason why that cannot be done quickly. Those in the employment sector, whether public service, employed by federal government, or those employed by state governments, and even those employed by private sector employers. I think that is a lot easier to handle, and it can be handled at two phases. You can give an urgent stopgap. Take this now, without prejudice, while we continue conversation in terms of the long-term sustainable solution to deal with a reality that we have come to accept. As for the up and down of the prices, it goes without saying that when you deregulate and you withdraw subsidy, when you deregulate and you subject a product to market forces, it has to go up and down. The challenge in Nigeria, however, is the fact that we are managing with two difficult, unstable variables. The real devil, in my view, is the exchange rate. Now, if the exchange rate, if we can't find a way to stabilize it, if it goes up and down, then anything that has imported content, the price should also go up and down. But if it just keeps going down, then, of course, it simply means that anything with imported content will keep going up in terms of price. So we have to achieve some stability. The monetary authorities need to revisit whatever tools are available to bring some stability to the Naira, or at least if they cannot get it to appreciate, they should get some, develop appropriate tools to achieve a level of stability. Since we have abolished, since we have abolished the dual exchange rate. The other is the fact that oil price changes, but those changes don't occur overnight. We all monitor. It can increase by 2 cents, it can decrease by 3 cents, it can drop by $1, it can increase by $2. But between the time the increase takes place and when the product gets to the refining process and all of that. So I think there is something that government needs to pay attention to, such that, because we are not really yet having a competitive market as far as petroleum product is concerned. NNPC is still a dominant, if not a dangerous, monopoly player. And monopolies, we pass on their inefficiencies. I'm not suggesting that what has happened, but I'm saying that the way to prevent producers of services from bidding in their own impurities into a price is to ensure a truly competitive market. So if you are inefficient, if you are corrupt, if you pad up your procurement process, if your throughput is inefficient, and therefore your output is cost much more than your competitors, you just fall out of the market. But unfortunately for now, because of the basic infrastructure required, including huge cash required, I guess NNPC still have a fair, or rather an unfair monopoly in terms of providing the services. And that is why it is the MD who was talking about market forces. A true market doesn't have one operator.
Let me ask you quickly. I mean, one will think, and this is perhaps the conversation that the major candidates during the campaigns are talked about. President Tinubu, VP Atiku, and Mr. Peter Obi all talked about removal of subsidy and the fact that it needs to go. But a lot of people were imagining, and as your government, the APC, had said that you were prepared for this. And the president said, I asked for this job. You voted me in. Let me do this job. So it comes with a thinking that there was a preparation for this. But it looks like the way and manner your critics are taking this, it doesn't look like the government already have a thought-out plan on some of these issues. If this is an agenda that was going to happen should you win the election, why is it taking a long time to be able to fix the pains of Nigerians based on the policy of government.
No, sure, you have to be fair. The fact that a doctor is committed to treating a patient and he really claims to knowing the nature of the disease that afflict the patient doesn't mean that as soon as you wheel the patient into the theater, a solution emerges. I think President Tinubu has shown commitment. He withdrew the subsidy, proceeded to say, one of the things I will have to do is to adjust wages in the formal sector, and the other one is to appropriate some funds that we will pay to the most vulnerable people. Those most vulnerable people are not necessarily wage earners. In fact, there's a school of thought that thinks that wage earners are relatively privileged compared to those who are not even sure of tomorrow's pay. So I do not think I am shocked that between the time he made the pronouncement and now, there is no clear-cut. The one that is straightforward, in my view, is dealing with the formal sector. I think it's possible for the president to decide that next month, every worker in the employment of the federal government shall earn extra, and direct the finance ministry or the head of service to say, from next month, effect X level of tax cut. I believe that is possible, but only in the short run. In the long run, the conversation needs to take place because we are in a democracy. The president cannot decree on matters that affect the other social partner when it comes to employment. It must carry on board the labor unions. It must also, for this purpose, as much as possible, carry on board the private sector employers because that's what we call neighborhood effect. If you work for federal government and I work for Channels Television and my pay is going up as a federal employee and yours is static, there will be some instability in the system. But I believe that those involved in this process must understand, and I believe they do understand, that it is not something that they have unlimited time to deal with. It's important that it is dealt with expeditiously and that the workers have their pay packet improved substantially.
To what extent do you think
nobody dispute the increase? The other one that I believe government could do immediately, but even at that, the solution will not be here immediately, is to decide, and I believe that decision is inevitable. We are going to deal with the supply side with regards to impact on price. You can't avoid having to procure purpose-built mass transit buses across the country to carry not just workers, to carry all commuters, regardless of where they work.
Is it for free?
No, it doesn't have to be free. The operating word is what is affordable. What we are dealing with now is not the fact that petrol is not free. It is that it's costing more than it used to cost, and as a consequence, there are multiplier. It has its own multiplier effect on other prices. That's what we are dealing with. I don't think anybody is asking for something that is free. So, but you can affect price by improving on supply. So now, I guess part of the problem now is that if those who are involved in the transport sector are taking undue advantage of the increase in price, as if price is the only cost element in transportation. For example, if the price has increased by 100%, then they are increasing prices of transportation by 100%. That's not exactly a correct way to calculate the numbers, because fuel is just one of the input. There are other things that determine what a passenger should pay, if he buys a car. But if you have scarcity and you have few operators who manipulate the market, then, of course, anybody can hide under the guise of the increase and mark up prices in a manner that might be unfair, leaving people with no choice but to try to cover the money.
And I'd like to ask you, Senator, I don't know what is going on in the minds of majority of Nigerians. Some of those who voted your party, maybe they didn't envisage this level of pain. And no gainsaying the fact that whether it is pain sometimes, whether it's gain sometimes, there must be pain. But the level and the manner in which things have gone in the past weeks, Do you think for a moment that some of your support base are perhaps having a rethink about their support for your party and for your candidates?
That is your views.
No, I'm asking. It's a question.
No.
I'm asking a question.
Yeah, you're asking the question, yeah. Nobody who wishes to who promise you a pair of suit, if elected, and he haven't yet have access to the fabric, will, upon election, just deliver you a pair of suit. Unless it is custom made. And in which case, he has all your details, fabric is ready, he has actually prepared it. So there is no government that will cough out within 24 hours a sustainable solution. I have seen people even arguing, even those who are concerned about the need to deliver this relief, arguing that going to give people 8,000 naira or 10,000 naira, they do not think that the data are reliable and that it will not be fair to use data that are not reliable. Now, if government has to listen to such, those are also critics. They want money paid out, but they want government to be careful not to pay to the wrong people or not to have it pocketed. I watched a program the other day where a lady, to my shock, tried to explain how they have to deal with these social safety net conditional cash transfer under the previous administration. She described herself as a focal person in one of the states. And she said people bring cash from Abuja and they meet with some persons and then they go out and they distribute the cash. I don't think a state should operate like that because this is taxpayers' money. It's not good enough to having good intention or the father to care is not a reason why you wouldn't account for the resources made available and to convince the man or the authority providing the resources that it was delivered to the targeted group. And the way she explained it shows that a lot of money, in my view, must have gone to wrong hands. You don't want to repeat that.
But it's 56
but
days.
What is possible,
for example, if you ask the announcement?
What is possible? Let me explain this. For the private sector and for the public sector, the organized sector, once government recognizes that from the day prices changed, it has had negative impact on cost of living, there is a compelling argument to say, don't delay this process too long. If you do, you will have to pay us arrears to compensate for what we have lost. And for me, it's a powerful argument. It's the argument behind any form of arrears that is paid anywhere in the world. And even for those who are in the unorganized sector, and their case is a bit more problematic. I listened to the governor of Kaduna State who expressed concerns, which is shared by some of the governors, about how can they rely on the last figures. And to be honest, that argument is valid. Are we assuming that nobody has died? They have a lot of criminal activities, bandits, people have relocated, new IDP cab have emerged, and so on and so forth. But also, are we saying that the level of poverty is static? It is either it is improving, static, or it is even or it has worsened. In which case, you need to update your data to be able to deal with that. The problem with us as a nation, which unfortunately, passing the buck doesn't solve the problem. We have to try to fix it, is that from Obasanjo's time to Yaradua, to Jonathan, to Buhari, and now to Tinubu, this issue of reliable national identity card, billions have been spent, even the name that you have to be able to activate your phone, all of that, yet we don't have credible national data. I think a government has to get that fixed one day. If we have that now, for example, then this can be done. The only point I want to make here, I've had people saying, what would 8,000 do? What would 10,000 do? Well, if you earn so much, you may not know the value of 8,000 or 10,000. For those who are completely socially excluded, 10,000 is a lot. And even in US, during the coronavirus, They cash transfers to people, including Nigerians who are American citizens, who were not even within the territory of America at the time, who are in Nigeria. They got their checks transferred to their bank account. So there's nothing wrong with it. The challenge we have, unfortunately, is this issue of endless lamentation about not having reliable data.
But my question initially is the worry of those who impose their trust in the Tinubu ticket, who thought that when Tinubu gets into
They know
office,
they were not electing a magician.
You did not tell them you are not.
No,
They
know they are not electing a magician.
Your party
and nobody
promised renewed agenda.
Nobody promised magical solution.
Yeah, your party said you have renewed hope. Let me give you an example of things that have happened.
You don't need to give me an example.
I'll give you an example of
what we promised more than you who was reporting it. Whatever you reported was, we were the source.
Yeah, but the fact
we did not promise 24 hours solution.
You remember?
We did not promise miracles.
Schools.
We did not promise overnight solution. But nobody said this will be done.
Days,
and you show me if you have any document that says in 48 hours, this will be done. In 14 days, this will be done. In 21 days, this will be done.
Are you saying that the hopes and the expectations of Nigerians...
I think you are the one who have the illusion that once a promise is made, automatically once you get into office, either spiritually or by miracles, solutions emerge.
The fact
what Nigeria need is what President Tinubu has demonstrated: the courage to make decisions, to be humble enough to admit some of the unintended consequences of those decisions, and the will to deal with those consequences. And he has put in place instruments to deal with it. He has asked his number two, the vice president, to provide leadership for that effort. The social partners are talking as we are talking. And as I said, depending on what they are discussing, I don't want to complicate anybody's issue, but I know that they know that they don't have unlimited time to find a solution, and that it's possible to have short-term, medium to long-term solution. For now, we can deal with short-term solution.
It's 56 days since assumption of office, since that policy decision has been made.
Yeah.
How long more will Nigerians have to wait? That's the question. The patience that they are asking for. There are a lot of people's lives who live on a daily living and earning.
Are you
Their
sure
lives
you
have
can
been
lecture me about
impacted.
that? I can lecture you more about that.
It's not about
that to me.
Yeah, we are having a conversation.
Yes.
We're having a conversation about the plight of the average Nigerian.
Yeah.
And your party promised that you are going to change things
overnight.
From the status quo.
Overnight.
I didn't say overnight. But your party promised change.
My dear friend, Oshiomhole, the last time I was here, or towards the end of last year, you revealed to me that you were moving to a new studio, which is this one. You have a reason why you choose to build a new studio. If you are absolutely satisfied with the old one, you were not about to throw money away because it's a private sector enterprise. How long did it take you between the time your management took the decision and when you now brought this studio to a reality? It takes time. You know it, I know it. So why are you pretending that you are dealing with a policy that has to do with over 200 million people, and that any government can come even before he takes a full audit of what is on ground, look for the money, not as if you have a well where the money was already stockpiled, and then just throw the money out because you want to be seen to have acted within a number of days. You can't argue, Shil. You can't argue that how many days, whatever number of days you mentioned.
56 days.
Yeah, that's interesting. Usually people talk about 100 days. You are able to talk about 56 days. You can't say that these 56 days have not been eventful times. The president has had to make profound statements that over time we change the Nigerian narrative if pursued diligently. And that is the word, if pursued diligently. People want to say, hurry, hurry, tear your trouser. Just because you want to dress up, you take patience to wear it properly.
There are other factors that I would like to bring into the conversation. But the issue is that for those who are feeling the pinch directly, if you're, whatever you are telling me, a day sounds a long time in their eyes because they are the ones feeling the pinch.
It is.
But part of the issue raised by NEC is the issue of cutting the cost of governance. You being a governor for 8 years, if you are serious about this cutting cost of governance, where do you think we should be looking at?
Well, there are many things that I see that I'm not convinced about, but sometimes I want to emphasize some here. Some governors are not really responsible. They have little or no control. Let me speak from my experience. When I got to Edo State, I bought a small car that I can drive wind down because I'm at home with the people. It took me time to adjust from the fact of being a street man to be a governor that has to be guided. The first thing I got rid of was these 2 big powered motorbikes to escort me to the office. I see the driver doesn't know his way. I got rid of that. I told my driver, I don't need more than 3 cars. The one I am in, one in front and one behind me, carrying police and security. And on occasion, I drive myself. I did like the idea of a bulletproof car because when you are with the people, when I see people waving me, I want to wind down and wave them. And I can't do so with a bulletproof car. I got a letter from DGSSS telling me I must maintain not less than 8 vehicles. And they identify there has to be a staff car, the one I'm in, another one that looks like the one I am in, then one for DSS, one for SIB, one for my ADC, chief detail, an ambulance. So by the time they put the numbers together, I said, do we need this to be protected? And the man told me, if you think because you think you are popular, just one guy who is unpopular can go and arrest people and so on. So in the end, you see there is a certain minimum. Of course, I keep disobeying it. When I'm coming to Abuja, I call with my ADC. Those who saw me traveling, and many did, even out of the company, they see me carry my carry-on luggage. Say, you don't have it. I did go to carry weapon to London, to America, and so on. What is the use? I mean, I can help myself. So, but I also agree that there are people who seem to enjoy a long convoy. I never use army in my convoy. I see some governors who use army, police, if they can, even SSS. Air Force and so on and so forth. So let's not lump everybody together. But the real cost of governance, if you ask me, is not even in terms of what people say. The pay is small. The real cost of governance is wastages, even in the bureaucracy.
And the civil service.
In the civil service, in the public service. You must pay attention to your procurement policies and don't be carried away by procurement laws. Due process, you must get certificate of XYZ from this. All those ones in the end become toll gates, roadblocks that leads to delays between when you make a decision and when you can get it implemented. But you fulfill all, in law, these have been put in place to prevent XYZ. So a lot of the comments I see about cost, there is no question that there is huge waste in government. There is no question. Huge avoidable waste. And I will expect that this president will make conscious effort to ensure that as much as possible, he reduces the cost of governance. But there are many things that will happen, even under his nose, that he will not be able to see.
People have raised question mark, even to the pay and that some of you and your colleagues will be taking in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
The National Assembly in Nigeria has been described as one of the most expensive to run in the world, even higher, that the Nigerian lawmaker is even more paid than the American lawmaker.
Well, I don't want you to convert this interview to,
We're still talking about
maybe
cutting cost of
if we are
governance.
talking in real terms, do you know that the pay of public officers has not been adjusted since 1999? Because it has to be done by the
RAMFAC.
By RAMFAC. And which country in the world, since you like to talk globally, in an environment such as ours, where the key variables that determine cost of living, exchange rate, inflation, running double digit, over the past 10, 50 years. I don't know when last Nigeria attained single-digit inflation. So side by side with dual carry, then you have this endless devaluation. If you convert, anybody receiving salary in Nigeria is underpaid, except maybe those who are in the top echelon of banks and other big private companies. No permanent secretary from his legitimate salary can afford to buy a new Peugeot 504 or 304, whatever is the model now, or a Toyota Camry. He cannot afford it. Yet, when I started working, even as a union leader, as General Secretary of Textile Workers, my 1 year salary advance was all I needed to go and buy a Volvo car. So the working class, the salary earners, except those who earn both salary and profit, as in the case of big players in the private sector, the typical salary earner in the public service is grossly underpaid. Right now, in my view, what we call minimum wage is a criminal wage.
What do you think is appropriate?
If you exchange 30,000 naira at 800 naira or 700 naira to the dollar, what does that translate to? So the value of that minimum wage, when it was 125 naira, when it was first introduced, under Shagari or I think Shagari's government, it's about 2 times, 3 times the value many years later. Even in the public service.
What do you think is an appropriate minimum wage?
The private sector employers, the average responsible private sector employers is a better employer than the federal government and state governments.
What do you think is an appropriate minimum wage in today's Nigeria?
Well, you see, when a matter is under conversation by the social partners, people who are not in the system may be at liberty to throw out what they are thinking is. But I can tell you what I am paying, what I have decided to pay my cleaner. My cleaner is not just a primary school. I'm not sure he has a civil living certificate, right? But she is knowledgeable enough to clean the house. I found myself unable to pay her less than 60,000. In fact, 65,000. It's about my conscience. I'm trying to imagine what she has to pay for a house. I'm trying to imagine, she told me she has 4 children. I'm trying to imagine how she has to look after those children. And I cannot question why she should have 4 children. You know, in fact, if every Nigerian limits himself to him or herself to 4 children, our population growth rate will not be as high as it is. But this is what I've chosen to do. Not because I have the money, but because I don't think that, given my background and what I know about living on wages, that I can, in clean conscience, for whatever reason, if I have chosen to employ a cleaner and choose not to clean my house by myself, that is the least I thought I could pay to that guy, so that she will be able to meet, not to deliver a comfortable living standard, but what you call irreducible minimum for her to survive. So if I do that to my cleaner
in the house,
I have to do a little more to my driver because he requires some training and sometimes even retraining, and my security is in his hand. If he's hungry, I had, when I was working, when I was General Secretary of Textile, I had the driver who, when I say go left, he would turn right, he turns left. And when we came back, I complained that why did they ask this guy to drive me? And then the Yoruba guy, he said, "T, by get me, Reno." He said, "If I have not eaten, I don't see road." And I said, "So, you didn't eat?" He said, "No, because they called him at the last minute to come and take me from Lagos to Benin and to my village." And so I don't know that I had rushed to have my breakfast. He didn't eat anything. He couldn't say no. But when he, as he said, so he couldn't see well, and that's a huge risk to me. So I think that the private sector employers already understand this, and I'm talking of the serious one, those who at least who are members of NECA, or even if they are not members of NECA, they are truly fully organized, and they recognize that, you know, you are not going to get the productivity from a worker who is starving. You know, I think the pay in the private sector is not better than the public sector.
Let me quickly wrap up on this issue of the subsidy removal and the palliative measure. There are a lot of criticism that have come on how the 500 billion naira is going to be shared, particularly the fact that the National Assembly, the 469, might be getting about a 70 billion naira share, and a lot of Nigerians are also questioning that. And it comes to one of the questions that I asked, whether or not the National Assembly, that is seen as one of the most paid lawmakers in the world, should be earning as much with the rate of poverty in the land. Are you able to defend this kind of monies that are being linked to the National Assembly?
No, because I see, I don't want you to drag me to issues that I don't want to talk about, or I don't have all the facts. But first, I'm happy you acknowledge that President Tinubu sent a proposal to the National Assembly because you can't spend without appropriation to revisit the rushed supplementary budget that was made a day to the end of 2022, year 2022, and he ordered 500 billion for the Nigeria poor. And like you said, took that decision properly, forwarded it to the National Assembly. Within 24 hours of receiving it, the National Assembly approved it, which means everybody appreciated, and we do appreciate the urgency, you know, of the matter and the need to deal with it. Now, like we have said earlier, if in spite of that, people haven't yet gotten the money, it's because you just want to throw the money at the problem. You want to make sure that the target group are properly identified and the money doesn't end up in the pocket of, quote, ghost vulnerable Nigerians. I'm still trying to understand exactly what is the pay structure of the National Assembly. I don't know as I sit here.
You've not earned anything.
Wait. Hurry.
Go ahead, sir.
I've just resumed, right? And I have not received any communication telling me this is my monthly salary. And I'm asking questions. I'm hoping that by the end of this, year, of this month, we are now in July, end of July. Somebody will tell me, and I will expect that I will be fully paid. Because the last time, I think we were inaugurated, was it on the 13th or 15th, 13th or thereabouts?
On the 13th of July.
Whether they calculate anything or whatever as a result of the way we resume and so on. But let me tell you one thing that the National Assembly is not talking about, and I don't know why those who have duty to speak are not speaking about it. I was shocked by the level of vandalization of properties of the National Assembly. That televisions are carted away, carpets are carted away, the chairs, senator chairs are carted away. I have to use my money, and somebody also decided to deliver to me a printer and to give me a laptop to use in my office. And I have to buy the carpet and pay the cost of fixing. I have to pay some young people to clean the office, to install new carpet. I have to pay to repaint my office. And I produce you the receipt. And I can't understand how a Senate that sat on Sunday before we were inaugurated, whether on a Monday or on the following Tuesday, within 48 hours, that level of vandalization took place. And we have hundreds of security men and women in the National Assembly. I can never understand what happened. And you find holes on the wall, even the office of very principal officers of the Senate. So I don't get it to measure individuals. Now, if you try to imagine what that means for 109 offices, and then the principal officers probably, they also have offices for their officers. And you have 360 people, because people tell me even in the House of Rep too, there's also the same kind of vandalization. In the background that I'm coming from, a change of tenant, a change of governor or president doesn't mean we will have to replace everything. Yeah, we can remove one picture and hang another one. That should cost money. And not much money.
We need to go now because we are totally out of time. And I'd like to ask for your view on this very matter in just 30 seconds. In the next 4 days or thereabout, President Tinubu will have to transmit the names of the nominees for the Ministerial or the Cabinet to the National Assembly as provided by the Constitution. I understand your name is, in fact, on that list, the one that has been flying around. Expectations of Nigerians are very high about the quality of the persons that President Tinubu needs to work with. You share the same view?
That what?
About the kind of, the quality of persons.
But at the heart of our campaign, first let me say something. You see, you know more than me. You have seen the list, and you saw my name.
There are a lot that have been flying around.
Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen the list. I haven't seen my name.
But will you take it if you're appointed?
I know that I am on the list of 109 senators. That I know. Anything outside that, I don't know, but you seem to know. So you are very privileged. Now, what is the second leg of your question?
I'm talking about the quality of the persons.
Yeah. Now, at the heart of our campaign, we mentioned that one of the gifts of President Tinubu, based on his performance as governor of Lagos State, is his ability to hunt for talent, catch them young, get brilliant guys. He's not known to surround himself with people who don't know their right from their left, or surround himself with yes, yes, yes men. He surrounds himself with people who can argue with him, who can have opinion that is different from his, and his business is to coordinate. And that was, in my view, the selling point that we projected to Nigerians. And we back it up by evidence of what he did in Lagos.
Yeah.
So I will expect that when he's dealing with a much bigger entity called Nigeria, that is C-State and FCT, that he can only look for the very, very best.
All right.
No sentiment. Yeah. No sentiment.
Yeah.
There are ways to compensate people if you want to compensate them. But you don't compensate anyone at the expense of the deliverables. Nobody can give to the country what he doesn't possess.
Comrade, we are totally out of time. I wish I could engage you more on some other topics, but we're totally out of time. So thank you so much indeed. Senator Adams Oshiomhole, one need to get used to calling you a senator.
We can't retaliate, as Idi Amin would say. You have that monopoly, so we continue to live with it.
Senator Adams Oshiomhole, who has already rebranded from the brown.
No, let me tell you
brown. We don't have time. We don't have the time. We're totally out of time.
I have been told I'll be walked out of the floor of the city if I don't.
If you don't dress well, okay.
No, I dress well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
no, but from your bath,
the khaki is dressed well. But
colors.
see that if I dress that way, they won't let me in. So I'm still fighting it, though. I'm not giving up on it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimberly, I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye for now, everyone.